Hello, this is Ann Mullen from Cycle Technologies. We here at Cycle Technologies, in recognizing International Menstrual Hygiene Day, coming up on May 28th, wanted to hear from people who have involved themselves and are doing their part to address the challenges faced by persons simply because they menstruate. So I am thrilled to have as my guest today entrepreneurs Manji Gill from the social enterprise Binti, based in the UK, which provides menstrual supplies and economic opportunities for women in India and East Africa. And also here is with us on the interview is Annie Lasco and Margot Lang from a new tampon company called Conscious Period. And that is based in the US and focused on making menstrual products out of safe materials. And they also have a mission, which is addressing the problem of homeless women in the US accessing menstrual supplies. So hello Manjit, hello Annie and Margot.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming on to talk about what we believe is an important topic. I wanted to point out to our listeners why I found your two companies especially interesting and why I wanted to have you both join in this conversation. In the past couple of years, there seems to be an awareness that has arisen about the issue of menstruation in many parts of the world. And in this wave, insights and the resolve to address problems are converging in a number of ways, such that groups not connected to each other, such as your two companies, are coming up with similar solutions and enterprises, even though it might seem at first that your target audiences are different or are in different parts of the world. But it seems like we're realizing that people have similar issues no matter where they are. So, as I understand both of your organizations, you have observed not just challenges of women who can't access supplies, but also what impact that has on their lives overall and their place in society. So, Manjit, may I please begin with you and ask how you decided to take on the challenge of menstruation products?
Well, my story goes back to about 3 years ago. I used to work for the Sherry Blair Foundation, which is
Mm-hmm.
an organization helping women in the developing countries with entrepreneurial projects. And I was working with a young lady who was based in Nairobi, and we used to speak every week, and she would tell me about the things were that she was dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and I would discuss my stories alongside helping her grow her business. And then one day out of the blue, she said to me, Manji, do you know that women in Africa do not have access to sanitary pads? And it was one of those moments. I mean, I guess my background has always been business development. So I worked alongside men all my life, and I think something must have gone inside of me where I would not have been able to do any of the things that I've done in my life if I didn't have a sanitary pad. So we started doing some research. I traveled to Nairobi. I interviewed about 90 girls, and the stories on the ground were horrific. I then went over to India, did the same thing, found this chap who has invented a low-cost sanitary production unit, and carried on researching. 2 years on, here I am. It's not an organization that I set up thinking I was going to make lots of money with, but it was definitely something where I wanted to make a difference in a girl's life by giving her the opportunity to talk about menstruation and smash the shame that's associated with it, but also to develop economic programs so that women could produce towels for themselves. The other thing that has developed as part of the organization is that, well, yes, we know that women, even in war-torn situations, don't always have access to sanitary pads, or homeless women don't have access. So we are, in fact, supplying sanitary products to the homeless, to domestic violence shelters, and also refugee camps in the UK.
Well, I think that's fantastic. And I also find it fascinating if you stop to think that, women have always menstruated, and that here it is, the 21st century, and it's taken a long time for us to realize how that can really hold women back. If, like you mentioned, there's no supplies or there's taboos or that sort of thing. And Annie and Margot, so you're here in the U.S., and as it turns out, things aren't always rosy for women here either, even though it might seem more obvious that in places in India or maybe in East Africa, women wouldn't have access. So I guess the same question for you. How did you come about to start to make menstrual products and develop this mission?
Great, yeah, exactly. There really are a lot of domestic challenges that I think Margot and I have been excited to delve into and try to solve. This is Annie, and I can say that I was really kind of concerned with the toxins in commercial period products and really didn't find any organic options on the market that I was comfortable with, that were of the quality that I really liked. So one day I basically realized, like, why can't I offer a product that's really high quality, that has a quality applicator, that won't make me sacrifice my comfort for my health? And so kind of set out to do that.
And then sort of simultaneously, this is Margot, I, kind of had a moment where I realized how expensive menstrual supplies really are. As you guys probably know, a vast majority of the states in the U.S. tax tampons as luxury items. And so, I kind of realized that the expense, and then it sort of occurred to me that I really had no idea what a woman who was homeless living on the streets would do during her period if I was feeling frustrated by the cost. And so I sort of started doing some research and realized that, food stamps don't cover period products, and then sort of really learned about that taxation issue. And then also sort of realized there was no real good organic option on the market, similarly concerned with the toxins, but also preferred a plastic applicator in my own experience, and sort of chatted with some friends and seemed like they felt the same way. And then Annie and I met very synchronistically, and so we decided to sort of try to solve both of these problems, the sort of non-toxic tampon issue as well as access for the sort of homeless population in the United States.
And to be honest, I was really kind of focused originally on the international community, but I think that sometimes it can be really challenging to sustainably and responsibly address menstrual issues. Manji, I am so in awe of your work, but you can probably speak to the fact that it's an enormous challenge to address these issues in a sensitive way, operate in places that you might not be familiar with the culture. You personally might be more familiar than Margot and I are. But we just really thought that, why fix someone else's house if yours isn't functioning so well? So really kind of honed in on the domestic issues right here in the United States.
Mm-hmm. I suppose that you can only chew what you can bite off, in that sense. Manjeet, I'm interested to know then, once you started Binti, what challenges have you encountered? Perhaps resistance to overcoming taboos or that sort of thing? Has there been anything especially difficult or surprising, or maybe even especially easy?
I think it's one of those interesting journeys where, to be honest, perhaps this is who I am anyway. If I have a problem, I find a solution. Mm-hmm. So I've found while I've been working within Binti that actually something fantastic and big happens every single day. So it hasn't been a challenge. It's been a learning curve. Obviously, we do speak to women, and we are talking about smashing the shame. So there's a lot of cultural issues. But I guess I understand them, and I'm aware of how to work on the nuances of different ideas and respect. I guess it also helps, obviously, because I have an Indian background. It allows me to explore and understand the different cultural side of it and look at the different religious reasons for why there may be shame and taboo around menstruation. Mm-hmm. But as a British woman, I know that even in the West, we don't talk about periods, and we use blue liquid, to discuss it. So it's. I haven't met too many people that have said to me, Manjit, what are you doing? This is crazy. Haven't you got something else to do? It's just been a fascinating journey, and I really love making a difference in one girl's life at a time. So.
Well, it sounds very encouraging. It sounds like people are accepting of what you're doing. I guess I have the same question for both of you then. Manjeet, along with the religious understanding and trying to get rid of taboos. How would you say so far that Binti has been able to influence? So what do you think your progress has been up to now?
Well, we've been over to India countless times. We've started an education program which covers both the biological and also the emotional side, but again addresses the cultural shame and the taboo, and we like to leave our girls feeling empowered, so there's a spiritual aspect to what we do as well. We've spoken to the Indian community in the UK. We've been on a number of television shows. We have a global Smash the Shame campaign from a social media perspective. So we have girls from all over the world discussing things and taboos and stigmas associated with it. So bit by bit we're getting there. It's hard to give you numbers just yet, but I would say that on the whole, one-to-one, I've had over 500 conversations with different girls from around the world.
Wow, and as a one-woman powerhouse, that's quite a few already. And what did you say the name of your campaign was? Smash?
We have a campaign called Binti Rose Pose, where we've used a red rose, because if you think about a rose, it blooms like menstruation blooms. It sheds with a uterus lining. We're trying to encourage love around periods. We're also trying to highlight the dignity that menstruation brings to a woman. So we're having young ladies from around the world take a picture. They're holding the red rose upside down towards their uterus and their vaginal area, to show that actually I respect myself.
Well, it sounds like you're sending a very positive message to girls in a vulnerable age.
Yes, absolutely. But we're trying to get them involved so that they can start this conversation and not be inhibited in any way, because it's something we wanted to kind of normalize the conversation as well.
Mm-hmm. And Margot and Annie, so the same thing for you. How do you feel like you've been able to make headway in your goal towards, I guess, more awareness of, products, and also to help people get access?
It's really interesting. We're obviously a very young company, and we're really sort of just really getting ourselves off the ground. But we've already sort of been able to interact with so many young women that it's really interesting talking about sort of the stigmas and the taboos, because again, there's this sort of generalization that a lot more of that exists sort of in the developing world or something like that, and it's really not true. In the U.S., we have all kinds of stigmas and taboos, and a lot of people really do feel uncomfortable talking about these issues, and I think that those barriers are starting to break down, and we're really seeing it in the work that we do. I mean, we get emails literally every single day from people all around the world thanking us for sort of bringing awareness to these issues and talking about them in a sort of more empowered sense. We did a YouTube video that, kind of helped us really spread our message early on, and we were really able to interact with a lot of different women of all different ages and really have that conversation about what makes them feel empowered about it, what makes them feel ashamed of it, what are the questions that they have that they're afraid to ask. And so I think that sort of through the work that we're doing from this sort of business product facing angle, we're also allowing ourselves to have that conversation with people that are really craving it and that want to be able to talk openly about these issues.
And at the same time, it's kind of this moment that people really are, Manji, you can probably speak to this as well, all around the world, more interested in talking about menstruation in a totally different way, whether it's about the challenges women face or the products we're using or the innovation or the activism and policy work that there still is to do. And we saw that really directly, actually, with, first of all, we've gotten a ton of press being a tiny, tiny young company that I think would have been unprecedented maybe a year and a half ago. And at the same time, this YouTube video we did has 800,000 views. And the woman who, the YouTube influencer who put together this video and invited us to be part of it and really did such an amazing job sensitively talking about these issues, was invited to the White House to interview President Obama about anything. It was a partnership between YouTube and the White House. And she asked him about the tampon tax after we had kind of laid out all these domestic issues. And President Obama hadn't known that there's a state-by-state luxury tampon tax, and had a really brilliant response to it as well. He said that, it's a state issue and you should contact your local politicians, but that Michelle probably would be really upset about it, and that those laws probably existed because men wrote them. And I don't think that conversation was happening in the very recent past. So it's really an exciting time to be part of this as well.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing. I saw that.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was seriously a very cool moment for us.
So if someone wanted to look up that YouTube video, where would you direct them?
I would say Google Your Vagina Matters. And it's by Ingrid Nelson, who is absolutely fabulous, and a good friend of the company as a result of it.
Okay, so if any of our listeners are interested, you can Google Your Vagina Matters and take a look at that. Something I wanted to ask both of you about during this conversation was, I noticed that I think you're both having women have the opportunity to make pads as kind of an economic opportunity. And Manji, you had mentioned about the man, I believe, in India. I think he's been dubbed the menstrual man. Is that right?
That's right.
Is that the person you're in contact with and his machines you're using?
Yeah, there's a number of suppliers. He's just one of them. We are working with a couple of other organizations now as well.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it seemed like an unconnected but a similar thread. And I think Margot and Annie, did I read also on your website something about you're doing a similar thing?
Yeah, we are working on using those same machines in the United States, and we're working on setting up that sort of manufacturing system literally as we speak, which is really exciting. And we will be employing low-income women, so sort of the same population that we're serving with product, to do all the jobs required to produce the pads and then, along down the line, distribute and sell them as well. So yeah, definitely a very much synchronistic use of the same machines and the same technology and a similar model, just in really different markets, which is really exciting.
I find it so inspiring what both of you are doing. What would you, I guess, final thoughts about this? Manji, where do you think the momentum is? What do you think, or where do you think this movement will be in about 5 or 10 years from now?
It's a difficult one to work out, I guess, because we know that we've been menstruating right from the beginning of time. Ultimately, the idea would be that we are able to provide education to young girls so that they know what menstruation is. That's kind of what our goal is, and also to try and allow women, as many as we can in those developing nations, to have access to clean, safe sanitary products.
Mm-hmm. And Margot and Annie, you too, do you expect to see a different landscape in 5 to 10 years in this regard?
Absolutely. First of all, we hope that our company is able to really kind of revolutionize the way we talk about menstruation, the kinds of products that people are using, the questions they're asking before they're making their purchases. And we really think that there's going to be a huge change. We're seeing really, really exciting social enterprises pop up in this space, nonprofits, activist organizations, and I think that the combination of policy work, innovation in the product space, and ongoing kind of really smart social enterprise and philanthropy will really kind of move this forward. It's just the absolute beginning. So many people have been working on this tirelessly, and for some reason, people are starting to notice. So we feel very lucky to be starting our business in this moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're certainly all very enthusiastic and inspiring, and I'm so glad that you took the time today to talk to us about what you're doing. Is there any last or final thought that you have that you haven't been able to say so far?
Well, we have International Menstruation Day on May the 28th, which is a glorious global day to celebrate women and all things period. So, yes, that's kind of something that definitely needs to be mentioned. And
yes, thank you so much for that. And we will definitely coordinate our chat today with that day to make sure that your thoughts are also out there on that day. Margot, Annie, any last thoughts?
Just, let's keep this conversation going. Let's keep it alive. Let's talk to people maybe in, even if it doesn't necessarily feel like the most comfortable conversation, because that's how we're going to start to really destigmatize and eliminate the taboos here. And I think that this, really monumental day on a global scale is an amazing step in getting there. So it's a really exciting thing to be a part of, and I can't wait to see what happens next.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you again for joining me. If anyone listening has questions for our guests here, you can please send an email to them through their websites, consciousperiod.com or binti.co.uk. There are email submission forms that you can send to. If you would like to ask us any questions at Cycle Technologies, info@cycletechnologies.com. Again, thank you, Margot, Annie, and Manjit for joining me, and goodbye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.